City ready? All right, let's call the meeting to order. Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Nutcher. I am the appointed special magistrate to hear these cases today. Formal rules of evidence do not apply, but fundamental due process shall be observed. Everyone who has a case today will have an opportunity to present testimony. You may present evidence or witnesses to testify on your behalf, but there is no public comment portion to code enforcement, quasi-judicial proceedings. You must be a respondent or be called as a witness in order to speak on a specific code enforcement case. Everything today is being recorded. All testimony shall be under oath. When you are sworn in, please give us your name and your current mailing address so any orders get to the right place. The city generally will present its case first, and information will be displayed on the screens. Documents may be provided by the city as evidence. The city's PowerPoint presentation will be entered into evidence unless objections are made. After the evidence, I will make a ruling. That ruling will be reduced to writing and mailed to you. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and swear in the witnesses. Anyone who intends to testify on your case, go ahead and raise your right hand. If you're going to testify, anyone who's going to testify, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? We have a split agenda today. Code Manager Tullison, do you want to start us off?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. And it is a split agenda. This first case is an appeal to a trespass, and the City Attorney Richard Broom will be presenting that case, ma'am. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Broom.
Thank you, Mr. Broom.
Yes, Special Magistrate, my name is Richard Broom, City Attorney, and I am here on the Bass appeal of a trespass warning that was issued by the Titusville Police Department on May 3rd, 2023. I will be providing to you a copy of the trespass warning, a PowerPoint presentation that will be provided by our witnesses, copy of Florida statutes 871.01, as well as a copy of ordinance number 8, 2023. Some of the evidence we intend to present will consist of videos as part of the PowerPoint, and there is a flash drive here that I would like to present. So may we approach with this package?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, I'd like to begin with a brief opening before I call my witnesses.
Let me go ahead and take a look at these that you're wanting to submit, and I'll go ahead and make a record of
Yes,
them. So as Exhibit A, we will have the copy of the trespass warning dated 5/3/2023. Exhibit 2, Thomas Bass History with Titusville Police Department. Is that part of the PowerPoint presentation?
PowerPoint that will be presented that includes documents as well as video footage from the police department that day, and I'll have the officers testify to that.
Okay. All right. Exhibit 2 is the PowerPoint presentation,
And the flash drive is that PowerPoint.
and the flash drive will be part of the same exhibit. Exhibit 3, Florida statutes 871.01, titled Disturbing Schools and Religious and Other Assemblies. Admit that into evidence. And Exhibit 4 being offered, Ordinance 08/2023. That is the trespass ordinance, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So admitted. You may proceed.
Yes, Special Magistrate, given with your permission, as I question witnesses, they will approach the podium. Is there any objection to me staying here at the table instead of sharing the microphone at the podium?
I don't have any objection to that.
Do you mind if I
That's fine.
stay seated with the documents?
You're fine.
Thank you. On May 3rd, 2023, individual by the name of Thomas Bass was issued a trespass warning at the Titusville Police Department by Commander Dimon, and that's what we provided to you earlier. Bass was issued this warning in accordance with Ordinance 13-121 of the City of Titusville Code of Ordinances due to his actions of intentionally disrupting a lawful assembly which was gathered at the police department to honor fallen police officers and his refusal to obey lawful orders. Pursuant to Ordinance 13-121, and that's our code section, and that is part of Ordinance number 8/2023, which you have. Law enforcement may have cause to remove any person that they determine acts in any manner which violates or is reasonably suspected to violate any federal, state, or local law, ordinance, rule, or regulation.
Now, what are you citing to?
This is Ordinance Section 13-121 contained in our Trespass Ordinance 8/2023. That's the code section.
Got it.
That was created by Ordinance 8/2023. It's on page 3 of the ordinance I handed to you, and I'm referencing Section 13-121, trespass warnings.
Mr. Broom, does Mr. Bass have a copy of all of these documents so that he may follow along as well?
Certainly. I don't know if we have. Okay. And, okay. We have copies of everything except the ordinance. We'll make a copy of the ordinance for you. I would hand him mine, but it is marked up.
Yeah. I might have an extra one here.
Actually, I may have a, thought I had another one.
Extra.
I have one of mine.
Okay. I have an extra, so. So you are reading from section 13-121 on page 3 of the ordinance.
Correct, subsection A, 1, and B.
A, 1, and B. Okay,
May I proceed?
yes.
Again, and I'll repeat, subsection 1, law enforcement may have cause to remove any person they determine acts in any manner which violates or is reasonably suspected to violate any federal, state, or local law, ordinance, rule, or regulation. Subsection B, law enforcement is authorized to warn persons of this prohibited activity, and if the activity does not cease, they are authorized to issue a trespass warning. Florida statute, section 871.0101(1)A, makes it a first-degree misdemeanor for anyone to willfully and maliciously interrupt or disturb any assembly of people who meet for a lawful purpose. And again, that's the statute I had provided, and I've provided that package to Mr. Bass as well.
Thank you.
The evidence today is going to show that Bass left the lobby of the police station to intentionally interact with members of the fallen officers' assembly, which had gathered for a ceremony at the police department, and he did this for the purpose of disrupting this event. Mr. Bass returned to the lobby, where he continued to engage members of the assembly in the lobby. Before leaving the lobby for a second time, Mr. Bass was warned not to interfere with fallen officers' assembly and to exit the building to the left so as not to disrupt the ceremony. Despite these instructions, Bass told Commander Dimon that he was going to embarrass them, at which time he again interjected himself into the assembly for the stated purpose of embarrassing the police. As Bass exited the building, he was told repeatedly to stay to the left at which time he refused to comply and continued on his mission to embarrass the police and interrupt the proceedings. This evidence will show clearly and convincingly that Bass refused to restrict his behavior at the Titusville Police Department to legitimate public business, and that he intentionally disrupted this lawful assembly after repeated warnings not to do so. And I have 3 officers that I will be calling to testify.
Okay. Does that conclude your opening statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bass, are you present today? All right. Mr. Bass, would you like to make an opening statement yourself, or should the city go ahead and proceed with its witnesses? All right. And generally, opening statements are brief, as Mr. Brooms was, and they just talk about the evidence that you expect to show to me.
Yeah, I would just say that it doesn't meet the criteria for a trespass because I was never asked to leave first. I was actually invited to stay for paperwork, and then they brought out a trespass, and my body was never under any form of detention, so to tell me what to do with it or where to go isn't necessarily lawful. I was simply trespassed. I was walking to my car. I never meant that I would embarrass him at this event. I meant it legally in court for an illegal trespass. I was also attacked on the way to my car from behind. Yeah, I'm actually nervous because my attackers are in this courtroom right now. I still have injuries on my knee from this. I just don't feel like it meets the criteria. Filing paperwork should not get you trespassed. Title 18 United States Code protects you while you're trying to address grievances with your government, and that people shouldn't be able to attack you while you file paperwork. And they say this is a private event. It's actually a public event, and the things that I've said were to individuals in public, not disruptive of any event. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I call your first witness?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'd call Major Tyler Wright.
Is that W-R-I?
WRIGHT.
Major Wright, you are with the City of Titusville Police Department, is that?
Yes, with Titusville Police Department since 2007.
Right.
Thank you. Major Wright, were you working at the Titusville Police Department on May 3rd, 2023?
Yes, I was.
Was there a special event at the police department that day?
Yes, there was a law enforcement memorial ride there to honor the 2 fallen officers at our department, and their mission was to go to other agencies as well to honor their fallen officers.
Okay. Do you know Thomas Bass?
Yes, I do.
How is it that you know Bass?
I came to know Mr. Bass after he received a traffic citation when I seen him in open court when he was contesting the citation, and then 9 separate written complaints that he's filed at our department.
Are these complaints contained within your PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, they are.
At this time, could you please explain to the magistrate your previous experiences with Mr. Bass?
Yes, if we can get the PowerPoint back up. So it goes back to January 7th of 2022 when he was stopped by a traffic officer for a speeding violation. He was issued a subsequent citation. And on March 28th, 2022 is when I first met him in open court in front of Judge Friedland. Mr. Bass pled nolo contendere, was issued his citation by Judge Friedland, and was also warned about his behavior acting in open court by Judge Friedland that he needed to be calmed down or he'd be escorted out of the courtroom. June 14th was his first written complaint that Mr. Bass filed at the police department. That was against Officer Inarelli for unprofessionalism and retaliation. And in his written complaint, he included, "To this day, I have not seen proof that his gun was legal." And when he says gun, we're assuming he's referring to the radar gun. Despite the fact that he pled nolo contendere and the evidence was presented against him in open court. That complaint was closed out on or about August of 2022 as unfounded and file only, and a letter was sent to him.
And that's by the internal affairs, or that's investigated internally?
Either by the person that investigated at the time, and that was Lieutenant Joyner that investigated that first complaint. While that first complaint is being investigated, Mr. Bass speaks to Sergeant Mark Jennings over his displeasure over the traffic citation and that the fact that he hasn't seen any evidence pertaining to the ticket. Sergeant Jennings informed Mr. Bass that a judge found him guilty and he needed to be accountable for his actions. The conversation ended up going sideways, so Sergeant Jennings hung the phone up on him, and Mr. Bass showed up to the police department to file his second complaint against Sergeant Jennings. Lieutenant Joyner investigated that one as well and closed that case out as unfounded and file only. September 20th, 2022, his third written complaint authored by Thomas Bass, this time against Lieutenant Joyner. The nature of the complaint was rude, unprofessional, hanging up, and bias report. Mr. Bass was complaining that Lieutenant Joyner wouldn't meet with him to discuss the prior complaint closeout and called the report biased in nature and an attack on his character. Further wrote in his written complaint that he was still complaining about the traffic stop, subsequent citation, and the fact that he did not see proof of the radar device. That was investigated by then Lieutenant Little, who's now a major. And that was closed out, unfounded, file only, on September 22nd, 2022. And if I need to slow down, just let me know.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. His fourth written complaint, October 4th, 2022. Important to note that the time was 12:45. This was a complaint against Major Little, then Lieutenant, and his complaint was the officer was refusing to upload body camera. And he further stated it has been 11 days since administration has requested the body cam footage, and Little has refused to answer the request. This is likely due to his unhinged nature being caught on his body cam in an effort to hide it. This complaint was notarized by Commander Demon, but ultimately investigated by now Major Gonzalez due to Bass writing 2 more complaints on the same day, one against Commander Demon and myself, as well as the chief. This particular complaint was closed out, again, unfounded and file only. On the same date, October 4th, 2022, at 1:14 p.m., the 5th complaint was authored by Thomas Bass, and it was against, quote, Chief TPD, and the nature of the complaint was refused to meet or speak. He continued to write in this complaint other references from prior complaints that were properly investigated and closed out. Major Gonzalez closed this case out as unfounded and file only. And on the same date, October 4th at 1:37 p.m., another complaint authored by Thomas Bass against Wright, Demings, and other. We're assuming Demings, he meant Commander Demon. In his complaint, he put, been waiting over an hour to have a complaint. This is the second time that making a complaint has taken up most of his day. Major Gonzalez investigated this one as well and closed it out unfiled and unfiled and file only. Prior to collecting these written statements, our department had information that we received from UCF that he was trespassed from them sometime in the past.
I don't want to hear that.
Understood? So basically, due to his behavior, multiple complaints of the same nature, we decided to issue him a trespass warning from the police department, which was ultimately rescinded. November 21st, 2022 was his 7th written complaint authored by Thomas Bass against Little and Jeremy Gonzalez, and the nature of complaint was harassment for illegal conduct. He wrote in his complaint, I went to City Hall to complain about a lack of police accountability and police retaliation. Instead of being helped as a citizen, the cops were called to intimidate me. I ran out of the building out of fear of being illegally trespassed again. Cops have no need to show up when there is no crime. He further wrote that officers he has complained about should not show up on a scene that he is at because it's bias. And he complained that Officer Gonzalez also planned a meeting and didn't show up. Major Gonzalez investigated that complaint and closed that out as unfounded and file only.
Do you, are you presenting the trespass warning into evidence?
The initial one from 2022?
Yeah, has that already expired?
No, that was rescinded on the city attorney's behalf.
Okay.
So it's nothing official.
Okay.
March 2nd, Thomas Bass arrived at the police department for his 8th written complaint against Jeremy Gonzalez, and his nature was crazy unprofessionalism and not understanding the law. Corporal Gibbs notarized the form and gave me the complaint form. And in his first complaint still has not been filled properly. The response doesn't even include his complaint. Also, time to complain takes too long. Your department has completely radicalized me against police. All you do is break the law. Took 23 minutes to have this complaint accepted. Our concern here is the fact that he's writing that we have radicalized him against police. This complaint was closed out by me as unfounded and file only. And then on May 3rd, 2023 was his 9th complaint, authored by Thomas Bass against Jeremy Gonzalez and TPD. Nature of the complaint is refusing to respond to report or file them. Corporal Holden took that complaint form, notarized it, and provided it to myself. And in his complaint, he wrote, he has called 3 to 4 times to make sure his reports were placed on Gonzalez's desk or filed. He gets no response for months, no response at all. Ultimately, that was closed out, unfounded, and file only.
So up until this point, there was the original speeding ticket,
Yes.
his grief about the evidence at the hearing,
Yes.
and everything just kind of steamrolls from that incident? Or are there any other incidents that are being raised by Mr. Bass in his complaints other than you're not listening to me, basically?
No other incidences that we're aware of, no
Okay.
other law enforcement contact versus other than that traffic ticket, subsequent traffic hearing, and then these 9 complaints later.
Okay. And the complaints are generally because you're taking too long to respond, you're not sitting down and talking to me.
That, not showing proof of the radar gun,
Right.
unhappy with the first case closeout or complaint closeout, and then complaining on that person that investigated that one, and then it
Right,
just, like you said, snowballs.
Okay.
On that same date, on his 9th complaint, we issued him a letter authored by Major Gonzalez and telling him to cease and desist on these complaints and that we are no longer going to be investigating complaints of this matter.
Was that May 3rd?
Yes, May 3rd, 2023.
Why was Thomas Bass at the police department on May 3rd, 2023?
That was when he was filing his 9th written complaint against Jeremy Gonzalez and TPD.
While Mr. Bass was waiting to meet with officers in the lobby, did Mr. Bass leave the lobby at that time and intentionally engage with members of the fallen officer assembly?
Yes, he did.
And how do you know that he did this?
That was seen on our surveillance camera footage that's in our police department that shows various angles from the lobby to the outside of the lobby.
Is that video was part of the video that was provided to the magistrate at the beginning of the hearing? Now, have you seen the video?
Yes, I have.
And the videos in your package, are they a fair and accurate representation and depiction of the events on May 3rd, 2023 at the Titusville Police Department?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And at this time, or when you're ready, if you would like to show the video depicting Mr. Bass leaving the lobby and interjecting himself into the fallen officer reception.
So what you're seeing here is a camera view of inside our lobby, looking out the glass doors to the south. And seated in the seat there is Mr. Bass with his back towards the camera.
Okay.
The camera's now live?
Yes.
It's Special Magistrate. There's no audio.
Okay. Can you play it again? Because I wasn't paying attention to when
Yes.
it started running.
Sorry about that.
So if you could stop it for a second and just tell me again the context of this, Had he already filed the 9th complaint at this point, or he was there?
He was in the process
Your
of filing
understanding
it.
that he was there to file? Okay.
Yes.
And he was, your testimony is that's him sitting in the chair in the lobby
Yes, it was.
with the
And
intent to file another complaint. Had he been issued the cease and desist letter at this point?
Not yet. This was all prior to the cease and desist letter.
Okay. And who are the officers, or who are the people exiting at this point?
Those are all employees. Looks like most of it's employees of our department, mixture of sworn and civilian. Commander Demon, Corporal Holden, several civilian staff that's out there. And then if you see anybody in like bicycle riding clothing, I can't think of what they call it, but those are the bike riders for the law enforcement memorial ride. Some of the angles you'll see where they do come in the building.
What is the event called again? Law enforcement?
It was LEU was the acronym to it, but it was a law enforcement memorial ride that was based out of New York, I believe. And they were riding their bicycles from New York all the way down to South Florida, stopping at agencies of their choice to recognize and honor the fallen officers of that selected agency, and they happened to pick our agency that day.
Okay. And this was this a scheduled event, or?
Scheduled with our public affairs coordinator, but not put out to the public or anything.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Can you resume playing? Oh. If you can hit play for me and fast forward about a quarter of the way in. There we go.
You can go ahead and narrate
Okay.
what we're looking at.
So outside the building, outside the glass doors, you can see the individuals in the bicycle clothing. They're in a line, and mixture of sworn and civilian staff from the police department in another line. And we're all walking by each other, shaking their hand, thanking them for what they're doing, welcoming them to the Titusville Police Department, getting them refreshments or anything that they need while they carry on their bicycle ride. Mr. Bass is still currently in the lobby, and as you can see here, he walks to the doors and eventually walks outside, interjecting into the crowd of people. You won't be able to tell where he goes from this angle, other than that he is out there in that general area, and then eventually you'll see him walk back inside.
Major Wright, what did Bass say or do when he interjected into this fallen officer reception?
Other sworn staff heard him interjecting, shaking the bike riders' hands and welcoming them into the most corrupt police department, or the most corrupt city in America.
Okay. Following his interaction with the members of the assembly, did Bass return to the lobby?
Yes, he did.
Okay, upon returning to the lobby, did he continue to engage members of the assembly inside the police department lobby?
Yes, he did.
And you have video displaying that?
Yes, we do. We have actual body cam video that picks up audio.
And that's part of your PowerPoint?
Yes, it is.
Could you show this to the magistrate and explain to her as you do?
Yes. So you see Mr. Bass comes back in and he approaches the main window lobby, or the window reception area of our lobby. Oh, I went too far. This just shows the outside, if you would like to see that when he goes out and interjects, but because of the angle of the camera, there's a space that's not seeing anything. So it just shows him walking out like you saw in the first video, walking out of the lobby and then back in the lobby. And we can play that.
Yeah, go ahead and play.
Can you hit play for me? So you'll see our lobby door kind of crack open. One of our civilian staff, I think, grabs the door and opens it for him. Or as he's walking out, they both grab the door. But there's Mr. Bass exiting the lobby, interjecting with the event. And then he walks off that camera angle and then eventually returns.
and we will have another witness testify to what happened in the.
And there's Mr. Bass walking back into the lobby now. All right, the next slide is going to be a portion of the body cam where it's faint and it's barely audible, but then there's another part of the audio that is much more clear.
And whose body cam is this?
That was actually assigned to Officer Brett Adams. He was on modified duty status working in our records section, and that was the first body cam that we were able to get our hands on quickly to investigate the complaint. That was initially obtained by Corporal Holden and set up on the ledge at the records window. And then eventually I grabbed the body cam later on, as you'll see, and was holding the body camera, but technically it was assigned to Officer Brett Adams.
Okay.
And if you can hit play.
And who is at the window?
That is
We see-
Mr. Bass.
Okay.
Like I said, the audio on that one's very faint, but the next slide is much more clear. And that's Mr. Bass. Here we go, sorry. And that is Mr. Bass again sitting at the lobby. If you can hit play for me. If you can pause it. So the person you saw walking out was in the bicycle clothing. That was one of the riders for the law enforcement memorial ride that he introduced himself to and welcomed them to the world's most corrupt police department and told them that they actually trespassed you here for just complaining. If you can hit play again. And then you'll see Corporal Holden come out to let him know the complaint's been received, and I'll be outside in a minute to speak with him.
And which officer was that?
That was Corporal Robbie Holden.
Okay. Major, did you eventually meet with Bass in the lobby?
Yes, I did.
And what was the purpose of your meeting with Mr. Bass?
To collect his written complaints and also issue him the letter that was authored by Major Gonzalez explaining all his prior complaints and that it was a cease and desist and we're no longer investigating complaints of this nature. And that I offered that he could read the letter in the lobby or he could read it in his vehicle.
When Mr. Bass decided to leave, was he instructed to exit the building to the left so that he would not disturb the assembly?
Yes, he was, and that was done by me.
What was Mr. Bass's response to your instructions?
Audible, no, and then he proceeded to walk right into the middle of the function.
As he was walking, was he told repeatedly, go to the left, go to the left?
He was, as he was walking out the doors. There were several prompts by me to telling him to go to the left.
Was he told again after you testified, he was told to go left, do not interrupt the assembly. He continued right purposefully through the assembly. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
At that point, was he told again to leave the assembly area?
Yeah, I walked up closer to him, put my hand kind of near his right shoulder, and told him this was an event he's not invited to and to keep walking to his vehicle. At that point, he stopped, and I used a little bit of positive pressure to keep pushing him forward out of the event. And then he stopped and bladed again. I reminded him this is an event you're not invited to. Go to your vehicle. He stopped and bladed even more, so at that point, he was taken down to the ground and placed under arrest.
Okay. As part of your presentation, do you have video that displays what you're testifying to now?
Yes, I do. Ready to play it?
I'm ready.
Can you press play, please? So in my hand is the letter, the cease and desist letter. We got your complaint for today. That is a cease and desist letter for any and all future complaints that here at the Titusville Police Department.
Cease and desist?
Yep. Yes. Sorry. You can read it at your leisure. You're more than welcome to sit in here. You can sit in your car. Okay?
So I can't make complaints anymore?
Oh, we're done. Cease and desist, okay?
You understand that's the United States Code, Title 18, civil rights violation, correct? Sure about that? Yeah. Well, you can't stop somebody from making complaints. You can say it and say whatever you want. You already tried to trespass me for making complaints.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's.
So we're done here. Cease and desist. You can read it on your own, okay? Sure. All right, very good. So I proceed to walk out. Mr. Bass and Commander Demon have conversation that's not heard right here at this point. And then eventually I turn around and you'll hear Mr. Bass say, "I'll embarrass you in front of them." To your left, to your left, to your left. There's my left directions.
Here participating in a 3-day ride, has to raise
This is an event that you're not invited. Keep going. This is an event you're not invited. Why are you
shoving. Ow, ow, I got a sore knee. I got a sore knee. I got a sore knee. I got a sore okay. I got a sore knee. I got a sore knee. I really got a sore knee, sir. I just made it. Okay, sir, then just follow instructions and relax. Put your hands behind your back. And everything's gonna be okay. Why? Why are you attacking me? Why are you attacking me? I was walking to my car. Just asking questions.
Yeah.
Towards me. Just take a nice arm to pocket. Do all this. I'm gonna roll you this way. Is that okay? Now put your knees up to your chest. And then I'm gonna get up. Now I have a torn ACL in my left knee. What would be the most comfortable way to do this?
Pop him up, Robbie. Let's get him in the car.
Are you ready? Sit up. I didn't even do anything.
And then he was escorted to a police car and sat in the back of a police car.
Whose car is this?
Mr. Bassett, for the record, I told you not to interrupt that function. You stopped and kept turning around, okay? So you...
Is that where it ends?
Yes.
No, okay.
Major, do you have any other testimony or video to present to the magistrate?
Yes, I do.
And with regard to,
It's another cease and desist letter that he was issued by another governmental agency prior to this incident that we are aware of.
who issued that cease and desist?
I believe it was the U.S. Capitol for Republican Posey's office.
Is there any more video from May 3rd, 2023 that you have?
No, there is not.
Okay, thank you.
In the other cease and desists that you're aware of from other agencies, and I know that you had mentioned UCF, were any of those based on Mr. Bass being threatening or harassing
TJ.
or endangering anyone? That would be the only way that I would find that information relevant.
So the trespass from UCF that we have on file, it was from references that he made about this is why schools get shot up over a concern he had, but that was several years ago. But that all has, we have that on file. So UCF issued a trespass warning against him back then.
And you were aware of that
Yes,
before?
yes.
Okay.
And then from the cease and desist from the Congress of the United States, they wrote him a letter that he signed for, dated March 9th, 2022. Dear Mr. Bass, based on your extensive history of persistent verbal abuse when contacting staff in both my DC and district offices, any future communication from you to my office will need to be in written form. You can provide correspondence to my office by accessing my website at www.posey.house.gov or by regular U.S. mail to the below addresses. And the result of that was from multiple phone calls, repeated vulgar language to their office. What those phone calls were about, I don't know. I just know this is what was issued to them.
Major, would you provide a copy to the magistrate, please?
Yes. Can I approach?
Yes.
For the record, I've provided a copy of that to Mr. Bass as well.
Thank you. Okay, I'll allow that as, we're at Exhibit 5, I think. Okay, anything else?
No, at this time, I'll call Commander Matt Dimon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I mean,
Oh,
to do it the right way.
yeah, sorry.
Mr. Bass, you have the opportunity to cross-examine the major if you wish to.
Is there anything I can go through slide by slide like he did?
Is there any,
To
I'm sorry,
address
what?
all the slides as he did?
Yeah, sure, we can replay those.
Yeah, if we could start from there,
Yep.
I'd appreciate that.
But now this would be your cross-examination of his testimony regarding the slides we saw.
Yeah. So first, I would say that my initial complaint was about retaliation for a ticket being increased in court based on my attitude. My attitude was just asking the officer to review his gun. The officer refused, so he didn't have to. I said, if you want to be transparent, you could, and apparently that was me having an attitude. He moved the amount of my ticket up while in court without any prior notice. I felt that was retaliation, and that's what I was reporting, not anything to do with the ticket. When I spoke with Jennings on the phone, I was told that I tried to make an anonymous report. He wouldn't let me. He basically said that he said he would entertain this conversation a little longer. And then I asked for a superior because I felt that that was unprofessional to say to somebody trying to make a report. And he hung up on me at that point. And that was me trying to follow their procedure and go up the chain of command to be heard as a citizen.
Okay. This seems more like your testimony rather than you asking the
Want me to
major
ask him?
questions about what we've seen. You'll get your chance to give your testimony about everything we saw and anything else you wanna add to the evidence, but
You want me to ask him?
go ahead and reserve your testimony that you want to tell me, but you can ask him about what we saw.
Okay. Was I hung up on as a result of asking for his superior?
Yes, you were.
Okay, can we go through the slides? No? From the beginning? Is that part of your policy, to hang up on people who ask for superiors and try to follow the chain of command?
Yes, we have the right to hang up on people.
Is that your policy?
Again, we have the right to hang up on people if we need to, or if it's deemed fit.
Okay. Would you find it professional to say that I'll listen to this, I'll entertain this a little longer to somebody calling, trying to make a complaint?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Next slide, please. So, I was never, you said that Judge Friedland warned me in court.
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
I don't recall exactly what he said, but I know your behavior in court caused him to address you, specifically you.
I don't recall. I remember him backing up the violation of my First Amendment rights. Do you believe that it's a violation of your First Amendment right?
It's, Magistrate, that's not a proper cross-examination question or proper for the officer to speculate as to violations of his constitutional rights.
Well, I agree with that point, but what are you trying to ask him?
To basically punish somebody for perceived speech or attitudes, does he believe that that's a violation of a First Amendment
I
right?
guess he can ask him.
Can you rephrase what you're trying to ask me?
Do you believe that it's a violation of your First Amendment right to be punished financially for First Amendment or your attitude?
Again, in my opinion, that's not a proper for cross-examination or to speculate about financial loss for violations of potential rights.
I agree with that.
Okay, next slide, please. So yeah, my complaint, was my complaint against Officer Irinelli for unprofessionalism or retaliation?
That's what you indicated in your written complaint, was unprofessionalism and retaliation.
Did the response to that complaint contain my original complaint of retaliation?
Whatever you wrote down as far as your complaint goes is what you complained about.
Was that what it was addressed? Was retaliation addressed in the response?
In our response, is that what you're asking? I'm not really sure what you're
Yes.
asking.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, when I went to speak with Lieutenant Little about the response, was I yelled at in the lobby?
I have no clue what your conversation was in the lobby with Lieutenant Little, or if you were yelled at.
Was I kicked out of the building?
I don't know.
Was I then invited back into the building to discuss it?
Again, I don't know. Well, I wasn't there, I don't believe.
Next slide, please.
If he wasn't there, reserve that for your testimony.
No
You can
problem.
tell me that.
Yes, ma'am, I just
but-
wanted it.
But if he wasn't
I understand.
present, then he wouldn't know.
Sorry about that. Okay. Did Officer Little then meet with me at that point?
Again, I wasn't there.
Right. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Were you there at UCF or have any dealings with the UCF event to understand what really happened there?
No, I was not there.
Is it policy for you to dig up the past of people who make complaints to try and assassinate their character?
Again, argumentative, not proper for cross-examination.
That
Yeah.
is argumentative,
I can rephrase.
but you can rephrase it.
Yes. Is it your policy to dig up negative things on people who make complaints?
Same objection.
Well, there's a lot from an evidentiary standpoint wrong with your question. I think I understand what you're trying to ask him. I don't think it's relevant to this particular issue. If you want to tell me what your view of the city's knowledge of the UCF event, then you can explain that in your testimony.
Okay, okay. Okay. So you have no knowledge of what actually happened at UCF?
We have documents on file at our police department from UCF about that incident.
Why did you reach out to UCF?
At this time, you had your 6th written complaint at our department. You've shown a pattern of concerning behavior, so we did some research on you.
Why did you do research on me?
I just answered that question.
Is it normal to do research on people who file complaints?
Isn't that the same question he was told not to answer or not ask? Just worded different
Is there an
again?
objection?
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't feel that was argumentative.
Again, I understand what you're saying. I feel that he did answer your question about why the city looked into other events that they felt were maybe concerning because sounds like the city was getting concerned about your behaviors at this point, and his answer was because of your pattern of concerning behavior, they did more research on you. So I feel like he did answer that part of your question. I'm
that's
not
fine.
sure whether whether they have a policy or if he knows of the policy is really relevant to
No problem.
this particular situation.
What was particularly concerning about my behavior?
Could I ask him to clarify what, it's vague, what day, what time?
I think I
general.
think he can ask that.
So the fact that you pulled back up on a traffic stop after you're issued your citation, most normal citizens don't pull right up on an officer that's doing another traffic stop. So that's, red flag number 1. Number 2, your behavior in court, that was red flag number 2. And then 3, you're complaining about the ticket and everything in that ticket. The fact that you never saw proof of anything, but you pled nolo contendere. So now we really need to know who Mr. Thomas Bass is, and then your subsequent and further and following complaints that you kept writing were all frivolous in nature, and everything you were writing in there caused us to have a concern about Thomas Bass, and we as a department had the right to research you and know things about you so we know how to properly deal with you.
If I ask for a superior officer and I'm hung up on, is that frivolous? Is that a frivolous complaint?
You're asking if you got hung up on?
If I complain about being hung up on when asking to follow the chain of command and ask for a superior officer,
That calls for speculation of facts outside of the witness's control. He advised he wasn't part of that phone call.
You can ask him if he knows, if he knows,
who?
the witness.
Do you know?
What is it you're asking?
You might need to restate the question.
Yeah. So, do you know if it's, if it would be frivolous to be hung up on for asking for a superior officer?
There's nothing wrong that says we can't hang up on somebody when we know that that conversation is not going to get anywhere. And you're already complaining about the complaint that was already open. So what's there to sit there and investigate?
Is it your policy not to take a complaint or to take all complaints?
We took every single one of your complaints, all 9 of them.
Do you know that this is what I said at UCF?
It's in the paperwork that we have at our police department from UCF.
Do you have a copy of that paperwork?
Next slide, please. Did Jeremy Gonzalez agree to meet with me regarding my complaints to fix them?
Again, I wasn't there when you spoke to Jeremy Gonzalez.
Why weren't you wearing your body camera that day?
Because it was in the car?
Was it not in your hand?
No.
Did you shove me as I walked to my car 3 times in the shoulder?
That's what the video showed, yes.
Why did you shove me?
As I explained, out there in person, this was an event that you were not invited to. You have a pattern of irrational behavior, and out of the concern of the civilians and citizens that were there, I chose to take action.
Was this a public event?
This was an event in the front part of the police department, not advertised.
Was this a public event? Please answer the question.
Let's repeat a question.
Was this a public event?
No, I'm sorry, you repeated the question that I
Asked
answered.
and answered.
Can you ask that he answer the question? Was it a public
You can
event?
answer the question if you understand.
This was an event that was not advertised in front of the police department.
I don't feel he's answering the question.
I think your question is pretty broad
Is it
to
public?
say,
Was-
is it a public event?
Was
And
it public or private is what I'm trying to ask.
you can ask him what were the circumstances behind this particular event, but I don't know that this witness is necessarily qualified to give an opinion whether this was a public or a non-public event.
Okay. Okay.
But you're free to ask him the circumstances surrounding the event.
Yes, so the event was in front of your front door, correct?
Yes, it was.
So it'd be reasonable to expect the public to be in and near the event?
Again, asking for speculation as to what others may think.
Were citizens at this event?
Yes, there was.
Did I welcome the bike riders as they came to the event?
Yes, but not simply welcoming them.
Did any of the bike riders agree with me?
I have no clue what they said back to you.
Is it normal to take private, public conversations and punish people for them?
Again, asking him, is it proper to punish it? It's vague, it calls for speculation, and this is not proper for cross-examination, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that. I think you're asking for kind of these global responses from him, and really, you just need to ask him about facts.
Yeah. Did I shake hands with the people as they arrived and welcome them?
Yes, you shook their hands, but you did not simply welcome them.
Did I say anything that prompted you to arrest me?
No, you did not say anything. You failed to follow a lawful order.
Was my body under detention at the time?
Upon arrest, yes.
Before arrest?
No, you were free to move about.
So why would I be assaulted or touched?
You were being placed under arrest.
Before the arrest, I was shoved 3 times while I have a bad knee. Is that why? Why was that?
Sure, because of your unhinged behavior, like I've already answered back to you several times. Your behavior, your 9 complaints that you've wrote, your past behavior with UCF, your behavior with Republican Posey's office. I wasn't going to take that chance for you to do anything. You were given several orders to go to the left and not walk through, and you answered back no. You told us you were going to embarrass us in front of the crowd. And again, you disobeyed our orders to go around the crowd, which would have been much easier than walking right through the crowd. And then you stopped when I told you to keep walking. You stopped again, so then, yes, I used force to place you under arrest.
Did I walk in the direction of my vehicle?
Your vehicle was in the parking lot.
Was I walking towards my vehicle at the time?
I can't get into your head. I don't know where you were going. Your vehicle was that way, but what you were going to do, I don't know.
Was there a vehicle blocking me to my vehicle? Was there a vehicle parked in front of me to where I would have to turn?
There was no vehicle parked directly in front of your car blocking you in, if that's what you're asking.
No, in front of the curb, basically, to where I'd have to walk around it or slow down at that point to walk around it.
So are you asking if a vehicle was blocking your vehicle in, or are you asking if a vehicle was blocking you?
Me from, was the vehicle an obstacle for me to get to my car?
Depends on how you define an obstacle. If you're going to try to crawl over it, then maybe, but to simply walk around it, no.
Did you grab a hold of me? And instead of me, did you grab a hold of me at any point?
Again, because of your unhinged behavior, the 9 complaints that you keep writing, your history with UCF, the history with Republican Posey's office, yes, I grabbed you to place you under arrest. And I also put my hand on your shoulder to continue to get you walking through the crowd, to give you one opportunity to walk through the crowd and not interrupt. But you proceeded to do so anyways.
Next slide, please. Do you believe that unprofessionalism should be reported?
Yes, it can be.
Again, that's not a proper question for this witness. This has nothing to do with the facts of this case on his belief of professionalism being reported.
What is the point on professionalism?
I believe that I have the right to report unprofessionalism when I experience it as a citizen. So I want his views on how it should be reported, if it should be reported.
But I'm not going to accept this officer's testimony as the testimony on behalf of the entire city.
Understood.
On what their global response is on something like that. If you wish to ask him particular facts or details regarding what he's already said, then that's appropriate.
Next slide, please. Was I arrested that day?
Yes, you were.
Was my car towed?
Yes, it was.
Was my phone taken out of a locked vehicle?
By your request, it was taken out of the vehicle.
My phone was with me until it was locked in my vehicle by an officer. Was it legally taken out of my vehicle?
Again, this is beyond the scope of direct and has nothing to do with the issuance of a trespass warning.
So, Mr. Bass, what is your point about your phone?
My point is that my phone was seized from my locked vehicle while they were inventorying my vehicle to tow it.
Okay.
And I wanted to
I tend to agree
address-
with the city attorney that I don't really see the relevance to this particular trespass appeal about your phone.
Right, no problem. Was my knee injured, or did I express that my knee was injured while I was being arrested?
You made mention about your knee hurting or torn ACL or something, but as far as what injury you have, I don't know.
Right. Did that cause concern for you?
Same objection.
Yeah, unless that's, you're going a particular direction in terms of this trespass appeal and whether it meets the standards of a trespass, I'm not really sure that it's relevant whether he was concerned about your knee.
Do you know the nature of the final findings for the UCF stuff? How it was resolved, the resolution?
No, I did not read that far into it.
Oh, no, it's good.
Is there something you'd like to present?
Well, originally, when we discussed the UCF, you advised you didn't want to hear it. He certainly opened the door
Yeah, he's absolutely opened the door, yes.
to talk about UCF, and we do have a report. I would have provided that to you
Yes,
when I'm open. I can do it on,
he has opened the door, and
I felt, can I speak? Sorry.
you can respond to that, yes.
I felt that they opened the door by mentioning it.
Yes, and I wasn't going to admit it, but then you did, you continued to talk about it, and
Well,
in particular,
The only reason
asking the witness the details of
Right.
the event.
the only reason I did was because they brought it up.
They did initially attempt to bring it up, and I indicated I wasn't going to,
You didn't tell me that.
I said it in
Yes,
court.
yes, you did.
in
You said it to the court, yes.
I said it, not in court, we're not in court, but I said it in the chambers here, and then you, it's called opening the door because you started talking about it. So now they have the right to show me and show this witness the actual documentation.
That wasn't explained to me. I'm not a lawyer.
I understand, but that's their right at this point to put that.
Yeah, I was under the impression that this would be just me and a magistrate, and the question of law would be whether I trespassed or not only.
Well, it is, but part from the testimony I've received so far, part of the rationale for the trespass warning was some of these events that have happened leading up to the May 3rd date.
Do you believe that there's a certain number of complaints a person should be allowed to submit?
Again, this officer's belief on how many complaints should be received is not relevant to the issue of his trespass warning that day.
Sustained.
Next slide, please. Was I issued a cease and desist letter?
You were given a letter based on your complaints, and I physically told you, verbally told you to cease and desist.
So the letter didn't contain any verbiage asking me to cease and desist, correct?
You were given the letter and told to cease and desist.
And this letter was in response to complaints that I had made in the past that weren't responded to?
This letter painted the picture of your complaints, the allegations that you wrote in there, and all your concerning and erratic behavior.
What concerning and erratic behavior have you experienced?
Like I said earlier, the fact that you pulled up on a traffic stop that you weren't involved with. Most normal citizens don't pull up on traffic stops to question or challenge the officer on the ticket or to see proof of the gun, the radar gun. Number two, your behavior in open court in front of Judge Friedland. 3, after pleading no contendere, then you show up to the police department to file a complaint, and in that complaint, you talk about not seeing the proof of the radar gun when you pled in open court. And then 4, you're complaining now on that complaint because you felt like it wasn't closed out the way it should have been. And then your 4th and your 5th and your subsequent complaints that keep going. And then the fact that you wrote in one of them that we have radicalized you against all police, that is a very concerning and irrational statement that is normally not made.
Is it legal to pull up and talk to an officer?
Again, that calls for a legal conclusion.
I'd like a little more information on, that's the second time you mentioned that. What do you mean by he pulled up on another officer?
So the officer that gave him the traffic ticket back in January of 2022, he got his citation, drove away, and it was either later on that day or the next day, that same officer was on the traffic stop, not related to Mr. Bass. Mr. Bass pulls up on that traffic stop and interjects during the middle of the traffic stop.
Thank you.
Was there a car being stopped there at the time that happened?
I was not on scene for the traffic stop.
So you're working off the officer's opinion?
I'm working off what the officer told me.
Right. Do you know the nature of why I pulled up to the officer?
From what the officer told me, you pulled up demanding to see the radar gun.
How did I demand it?
I don't know, you went and asked in the middle of a traffic stop.
Did I demand or ask?
Again, I don't know what you said.
You used the verbiage demand.
I don't think he was there.
Right.
So, and I also am not sure that this direction of questioning
Yeah, no
is,
problem.
is completely relevant. I think that if you want to give me an explanation for you returning to discuss something with this other officer, that you can tell me that when it's your turn to provide evidence and testimony.
No problem. Next slide, please. Did I exit the police department at the same time to shake hands as everybody else did, as the cyclist arrived?
I think you already asked that, but yes, you did exit to shake hands, and simply was not exiting to shake hands to say welcome.
Did I say welcome?
As part of your sentence, yes, you did, but that wasn't the only thing you said.
Were most of the staff outside and unable to help me at the time?
Again, I don't know how you can answer that. That's a vague question that
Are you
it's not proper to.
Yeah, I get it. Are you asking, Major, whether all of the staff working there was outside, so the reason you came could not be fulfilled as long as the staff was outside? Is
Yes.
that what you're asking?
Yes.
I guess you can ask him that.
So what is your exact question?
If you were there, if he was there to file a complaint, I'll re-ask it. If he was there to file a complaint, were the necessary people to take his complaint outside at this gathering for this event?
No, as actually a matter of fact, Mr. Bass called one of my phones and left me a voicemail saying he was unhappy with Major Gonzalez and he was going to be at the police department within a few minutes to file a complaint. So I took that as he was waiting to speak to me.
Was that after multiple calls regarding those complaints and a scheduled meeting with Mr. Gonzalez that he missed?
I don't know anything you have scheduled with Major Gonzalez. I was referring to the phone call, voicemail you left me on that day saying you're on the way to the police department to file another complaint. And then my notifications were made that Mr. Bass was back at the police department. I'll be there in a few minutes and I'll meet Mr.
Were
Bass.
you aware of 3 previous calls over the past month regarding those complaints?
I'm sorry, did you say 3 creepy calls?
Previous calls.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
City, any redirect?
Do you want me back at the podium or can I stay here?
I can see you.
Okay.
I can see you fine.
Earlier, you had mentioned that Mr. Bass had been trespassed from UCF. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
Major? Is this a document that you obtained? I mean, your document, did you obtain that from UCF? Would you please read the sentence?
This is a report from Finder, which shares law enforcement information. And the narrative in here says TPW lifted per Major Freeman, Thomas Bass, date of birth, TPW 2016-22, 6/13/2016. Bass is trespassed from UCF and all affiliated properties indefinitely. Bass acknowledged he understood he will be subject to arrest if he returns.
Why was that information important?
That information was important because it shows that he's been at other governmental agencies, whether it's law enforcement, Posey's office that we spoke about, or even a school or college campus, knowing that he's been trespassed from other locations.
Do you believe that shows an intent to be disruptive?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe that there was a reason for you to understand that his interactions may be disruptive?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes. Do you have a copy? Do you have a copy for Mr. Bass?
I can
Okay. It's a one-page document. Okay. Well, I'm inclined to admit that into evidence. We'll have that as Exhibit 6.
One second. Magistrate, if I could, that was one page of from UCF. We also have a report incident from UCF that is 4 pages that we intended to offer with that document, all related to the same.
That is the supporting information
all-
for this?
yes,
Then
yeah.
let's do it as a composite exhibit.
So if you
then.
can make a copy of that.
How many total pages is that?
In addition to the one you have for,
Okay. And you've given Mr. Bass a copy, correct?
Yeah.
you just received, yes. Correct, Major Wright?
Yes.
Showing you a document that's been admitted to evidence with the magistrate, which is documentation from UCF, which was testified to earlier. Could you please read from page 204?
You don't need to read the whole thing, but
It's just 2 sentences.
synopsis
Yeah.
of the important words.
Trying to find where the sentence begins. Right here, where it begins. He reported to her making other unknown complaints.
The narrative says he reported to her making other unknown complaints to UCF in the OM Bud's office in the past and not receiving the help he was requesting. The reporter indicated they do not keep records of these complaints as everything they do is confidential, and she is unsure if he had made previous complaints before or if she has ever spoken with him before about the other matters.
Keep reading.
The complaints before, the reporter told me she explained to Mr. Bass that her job was to attempt to solve situations at UCF when a pattern of complaints come into the office. This upset the caller, and he asked her if an individual complaint would be investigated or if it had to be a pattern of complaints to be dealt with. She said she told him each report would be looked at while engaged in this dialogue. She said the caller stated something to the effect, quote, "I can see why people come to places like this to shoot everyone."
No further questions.
All right. Major Wright, you may step down.
Thank you.
At this time, I would call Commander Dimon.
You hear me okay?
Yes, and you were previously sworn, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give me your full name?
Sure. It's Matt Demon, Demmon. I'm a commander with the Titusville Police Department.
Commander, were you at the Titusville Police Department on May 3rd, 2023?
Yes, I was.
And did you attend the special event for the fallen officers
Yes,
at
I-
that station that day?
Yes, I did.
Could you please explain to the magistrate the nature of that event and how it was or not advertised?
So we have two of our officers that were killed in the line of duty. Officer Jack Schnell was killed by a DUI driver, and Officer Steve House was killed executing a search warrant back in 1989. And so the nature of that is they have bike riders that will go across the U.S., and they will honor those police officers who have fallen by doing a bike ride. And so on that day, they were coming to the police department. We had both pictures of Officer Schnell and Officer House out front. We had some cars out front with some lights on, and we were doing it to say thank you to them for riding and hosting or coming to that event. So it was an event that was attended by our staff and our civilian staff at the police department, and of course the riders and the people who put the event on to come through.
Do you know Thomas Bass?
I do.
During the reception for the fallen officers, did you observe Bass leave the lobby and engage with members of the event?
Yes.
As he was engaging with the members of the event, what did Bass do or say to the guests?
Well, so as he walked outside, we had a reception line for our staff and the civilian employees of the police department to say thank you by shaking hands. And he got in the line and started shaking hands, and I didn't hear what he had said initially, but Corporal Holden came over to me and he said, "Did you hear what he was saying?" I said, "No," and he says, "He's saying, 'Welcome to the most corrupt police department in America.'" And at that point, he had walked back inside. I got with Major Wright. I said, we knew that, and I sent Corporal Holden inside the police department. I said, please keep an eye on him. He was there to drop off a complaint. I said, we will go inside, take that, but we need to issue him a cease and desist letter.
Was Mr. Bass instructed not to interject himself into the assembly again, but to go left when he exited the building?
Yes, he was. So as we were leaving, Major Wright and I think you could see it on the video, walked up and issued the cease and desist form, explained it to him, said he could read it in the lobby or he could read it inside his vehicle. As he got up, he asked me, he says, is this a law enforcement event? And I said, yes. And he said, I'm going to embarrass you out there. And I said, I wouldn't do that. And he got up and started walking out, and that's when Major Wright said, left, 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 and he said, no, walk through the crowd. As he kept walking through the crowd, he slowed down to stop, to turn around like he was going to film everything. And I think you can see it, everybody's eyes had turned on him at that point, you know, because now he's doing what he intended to do. He was disrupting the event. And that's when Major Wright said, go, and he turned and he goes, why are you shoving me? And that's when it got to the point where he was taken down at that point, so.
Did Bass willfully and intentionally disrupt this assembly?
He most certainly did. He even said he was going to do it. He said, I'm going to embarrass you.
Was that the second time he had interjected himself into that assembly?
Yes, actually, it was probably the third because he came out and came inside the police department and was shaking hands, not only on the line, but then he came inside the police department, was shaking hands with the riders as they came in and saying what he did. Welcome to the world's most corrupt police department.
Did you issue a trespass warning to Bass at that point?
I did.
I believe the trespass warning has been offered into evidence.
Yes, exhibit.
Why?
I was very concerned. So his behavior, when I first met Thomas Bass, Lieutenant Joyner came to me and he said, listen, can you please help me talk to this individual? He's rambling on about DUIs, things like that. he's got a complaint. Let's see what we can do to help with the complaint. I said, no problem. That's what we do. If we get a complaint that comes in, we want to meet with the individual and try and resolve the complaint as best we can.
And these are complaints about behaviors of police officers?
Correct.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
So I went in, I sat down with him, and during the conversation, he talked about getting issued the citation. He didn't think it was right. He mentioned Officer Inarelli, and then he started talking about DUIs, and I asked, we started having a conversation about DUIs. He said he thought they should be legal. He said that cops drive drunk all the time, and then he said he drives drunk all the time. So my goal at that point was just to try and educate him, try and talk to him a little bit about the things that he was saying, especially after making comments like that. It really just caught me off guard. I didn't think it was going to be something like that. I thought it would just be an easy conversation and try and rationalize with the individual, and here's what's going on. But then subsequently, we had more complaints come in, more things that were happening because of it. And so we did a little bit more background. I was concerned that we have somebody now that's saying they drive drunk all the time, and I had a little bit of concern with that. So we started doing a little bit of the background on him, and that's when we found the UCF information. Subsequently to that, we were contacted, or we were made aware of the issues that happened at Congressman Posey's office, and then the things that were placed into the complaints that he's now been radicalized by police. So for us, that was very concerning. And then you have an event that takes place to honor fallen police officers, and he deliberately goes outside to interrupt the event. So that's when I said, yeah, that's where I had said, you know, that's enough. We'd issued the cease and desist, and we were going to trespass him from the lobby of the police department.
Would this trespass warning prevent Mr. Bass from making legitimate complaints to the police department in the future?
No.
Would there be a process to make?
Sure,
those-
he could call it in, he could meet an officer somewhere else, just not in the lobby of the police department. We have victims, we have other individuals that come in to meet with police officers, and if they're already showing a pattern that you're willing to say that this is the most corrupt police department in America, then, you know, we have concerns of what might be said to other victims or people that are coming in wanting to meet with detectives or officers.
So the trespass warning, was that issued for the disruption of the assembly as well as failure to follow the instructions not to interrupt the
Yes.
assembly? And again, how many times was he told, stay left, stay left?
At least 3. And then, I think it was like, keep walking, or you're not invited to this event, so maybe 4 times total.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have anything else to offer?
No, not this time.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a couple questions. Were you involved in any other discussions with Mr. Bass prior to the May 3rd incident?
There were some phone calls left on my, voicemails left on my phone about Major Gonzalez getting promoted, being able to see, in Mr. Bass's words, future crimes, and calling him Tom Cruise, things like that. And I want a phone call back, which I'd reached out to Major Gonzalez, said, have you spoken to him? He goes, yes, I have. I've spoken to him a couple of times. I spoke to him up at City Hall. I said, well, he's asking where this stuff is. I said, I know there are multiple complaints, but we got to get them closed out. And then there was a time with Joyner, that one, and I believe I was, Major Little told me about a conversation that he had with him after he had investigated that complaint. And then during that conversation, he said, you know, Bass was starting to get loud, was questioning officers' tactics and things of that nature, and I think that's when he asked him to leave. He wasn't going to entertain that anymore. So.
The statement made in one of his complaints, could you elaborate on that? Or if you have a copy of the complaint that he wrote talking about, you guys are going to make me radicalized against the police?
So what's concerning about that is that when you hear somebody saying you're radicalized against police, the term itself radical, what is somebody that's been radicalized? What are they willing to do? And of course, that is concern. I mean, today's day and age, we have those concerns, are legitimate concerns. And so when somebody puts that down to pen to paper and says that you've now radicalized me against law enforcement, well, what are they willing to do? I mean, you've seen where he came to the event for our fallen officers, you know, a very solemn event, but a thank you at the same time for those who took the time out to do this and was willing to embarrass us by his own words. So to me, you couple that in with the fact that now you're saying that you're radicalized against police, it's extremely concerning, you know.
And do you know the context of the statement radicalize against the police?
It was on one of the complaints that had came in. It was something to the effect of, you're now making me radicalized against police, or you have now radicalized me against police.
And,
And that was after, I believe, it was an additional complaint that had come in.
okay, and that was because the police weren't
He didn't-
taking his complaint seriously?
He didn't feel that we were taking his complaint seriously. So you go through 7 or 8 supervisors and you try and find the one that's going to entertain or tell you something different. And the reality is you plead no contest to a ticket in court. You have your day in court, you plead no contest, but then you want to complain against the officer, which, okay, we take those complaints, we listen to them. If there's a way that we can do things better, great. But when you don't like the answer that you're receiving, and we do hold our officers accountable, but when you're not happy with the answers that you're receiving, and now you want to complain against that supervisor because you say that supervisor didn't handle protocol correctly or didn't, do what he's supposed to do by policy and procedure. Okay, now that supervisor's done. Now I want to talk to this supervisor. Okay, I think we have one supervisor left in the department that hasn't spoken to Mr. Bass, maybe 2.
Were you at the point where you felt, and I'm just asking you, that Mr. Bass would not follow anything the police did or said to him?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that was what was concerning that day, is because you make a statement, you say you're deliberately going to do something. I don't know what else we can do at that point to get them to get somebody to listen, to be rational.
I don't have any further questions of the commander, but Mr. Bass, you have the opportunity to cross-examine him. I am out of paper.
I have paper, I just need like a pencil or pen or something. I appreciate that, thank you. Okay. So, did I say that I drink and drive, or have drink and drive? Or did I say I drive drunk?
You said, I believe you said all 3, actually. You even mentioned the story about someone you knew that got arrested by the sheriff's office for literally walking down the road drinking. So all of it together you think should be legal. And you said it's just a way, I believe you followed up with, that's just a way for the county and the state to make money off of people.
Did I mention that reckless driving laws covered DUI and used to be used for DUI?
Yeah, I believe you had a conversation about that as well.
Was this a conversation involving laws and legal precedent?
On DUIs, yes.
Yes. Was my complaint that day taken correctly as retaliation?
Well, your complaint wasn't taken for retaliation. Your complaint was taken by Lieutenant Joyner because you came in to file a formal complaint. So your complaint was taken.
So my complaint for retaliation wasn't written down that day?
If your complaint was for retaliation, then yes, it was taken on that day for retaliation. I know you have a complaint for that. I wasn't that day for Lieutenant Joyner. I couldn't tell you if that was the exact nature of your complaint other than the traffic ticket and subsequently what happened.
Was my body under detainment when you were telling me which way to go when we exited the building?
On the day you made the complaint?
When I exited the building and the event was going on outside and you told me to go to the left,
You were
was I
told,
legally required to do that? Was my body under detainment?
well, by your own admission, you said you were going to embarrass us, so you weren't under arrest if that's what you're asking.
If I said embarrass you, did I say how?
You turned around, you said, I'm going to embarrass you now, and you stormed out with Lieutenant Wright telling you, or Major Wright telling you, left, 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 and you said no.
Does that automatically mean that I meant embarrass you at that event?
Well, you embarrassed me, you embarrassed everybody that was there. They turned around to look at what were you doing and making a commotion.
Is it more embarrassing to attack somebody during an event and disruptive?
When you're trying to honor 2 fallen officers, I don't think it gets much worse than that.
Did I have any understanding of what the event was for?
It didn't matter.
Objection to what he would know about his understanding.
Sustain. Yeah, he wouldn't know.
Yeah, I understand. That's all.
You're done with Commander?
Yeah.
All right. Commander Demon, you are excused for now?
Just one more witness, very short.
Okay.
Corporal Holden. And would you please provide your name and your position for the magistrate?
Corporal Robert Holden, Holten, and I'm a corporal at the Titusville Police Department.
Corporal, were you at the Titusville Police Department on May 3rd, 2023 during the fallen officer memorial?
Yes.
Do you know Thomas Bass?
I met him that day.
Did you see Mr. Bass at the police department that afternoon?
I did. I observed Mr. Bass pull back into the parking lot, get out, walk into the police department lobby, sit down, come back outside as the bicycle riders were coming back and stand in line to shake their hands. And as he shook their hand, he would loudly say, "Welcome to Titusville, the most corrupt police department in America."
Can you tell me, sorry to interrupt, when did you first see him?
I observed him when he backed into a parking spot at the police department. What caught my attention is he had like a compact BMW car, and I've never seen one of those cars before.
So it was just a curiosity to
Yes,
you? That's
it
what
was.
drew your attention to him?
Right.
Okay. So you saw him back up into a parking spot at the police station?
Correct.
Okay. And then did you say you saw him go into?
I walked him enter the lobby and then eventually exit the lobby as the bicycle riders were coming to the police department and loudly, and he did it purposely to draw attention because he was saying it loud. I wasn't very close to him and I can hear him loudly saying it.
Okay.
So from my opinion, it appeared from the beginning he was already disturbing the event and trying to cause attention to himself.
Did you see him, or did you observe him to disturb that event a second time?
I did.
Could you
The-
please explain that to the magistrate?
The second time I observed him disturb the event, I heard him exit the front left lobby door, and I clearly heard Major Wright tell him 3 times to go to the left. And instead of going to the left, which would have been easier for him to go to the left to get to his vehicle in a quicker amount of time because he didn't have to walk through a crowd of people, he intentionally went to the right. I observed him stop a couple of times, and I observed Major Wright apply a little bit of pressure on his back to continue the movement, so he didn't stop to disturb the event anymore. And he stopped, I think, a total of 3 times before he's placed in handcuffs.
So in your opinion, was he merely walking to his car?
No, he was most certainly trying to disturb the event.
Thank you.
Okay.
No further
Nothing
questions.
further? Mr. Bass, would you like to cross-examine?
Can you express in words how loud I was outside when I was?
I can step away from the microphone if you like. I can provide it to you.
Please.
About this loud.
When I was told to go to the left when exiting, was my name used at all? Was I addressed?
Your name wasn't used, but he was approximately 2 feet behind you. It couldn't be mistaken.
What did he say?
Go to the left, and then the other 2 times was to the left, to the left.
Right. Was my body under detention at the time?
I can't describe to you what your body was under. I don't know.
Legally?
Legally, I don't believe you're detained or placed under arrest. I think he gave you a lawful command and you didn't comply.
Is it a lawful command if your body's not under detainment?
It can be.
Pause for a legal conclusion.
When I walked through the crowd, did I walk around to the right, around the tent of the event?
You did.
And was my car in that direction?
Your car's in that direction, but it was easier for you to go to the left to not walk through the crowd. It would have been less work on you in a quicker time.
Was it relatively open for me to walk to the right?
No, there was people standing there.
I also have a video of this event from my phone.
Okay, you can put that in as part of your testimony.
How would I do that? Because it's on my phone.
Well, you could show, if you
they
have
smart
particular
TVs?
questions that you want to ask the officer about something on your phone, you'd have to
I
let the
just wanted
city
to
look
enter
at
the-
it first, and then you could show it to the officer, or somebody could show it to the officer, and you could ask him questions.
Is there any way I can display it on these TVs? Are they smart TVs or airdrop it or?
This is not a smart magistrate, so I wouldn't know how that works.
no.
But if there's, I know we have some super tech people back there, and they might be able to tell
No, we have
us.
to use flash drives.
You say I stopped 3 times.
You stopped approximately 3 times.
Where did I stop exactly?
To the right.
Compared to the tent, where exactly did I stop?
I don't remember.
Do you know why I stopped?
Yeah, to just disturb the event.
What did I say to disturb the event?
I don't recall what you said. I think you were still trying to disturb the event just by your actions.
Did I say anything?
I don't recall.
Okay. And at that point, I was arrested, correct?
Yes, after you didn't follow his lawful command, you were arrested.
Well, that was when I exited the building, correct?
Right, to the left, to the left, to the left means go to the left.
Is your body under detainment?
Again, I'm
Has
not
to be
gonna,
answered.
I don't know.
Right. So what law was broken previously to me walking out the door?
Well, you've already caused a disturbance at the beginning of the peaceful assembly, right? By what you were telling them. Welcome to Titusville, the most corrupt city in America. So you're already causing a disturbance. We're all aware of that. And you try to continue that behavior even after he told you to cease and desist and to leave.
Was that a private conversation?
Was what a private conversation?
Me speaking to the cyclist, was that a private conversation between 2 people in public?
So you're going to ask me if it was a private or a public conversation? Well, I mean, you're standing outside, so I would say it's open for anybody to listen to.
Was it a private conversation between 2 people, though?
No, it wasn't. Not if you're standing outside in the public for other people to hear you.
Did everybody else, or the majority of people in the precinct, go out front to greet the cyclist as they came?
The majority of the people at the police department? No, I wouldn't say the majority. I would say a lot of command staff and some of the civilian personnel were standing outside, but the majority, no.
Okay. Does it show on video where I stopped 3 times?
I don't know.
Okay. Can we watch that video again?
Yes?
This would be as I exit the building. Please tell me where I stopped 3 times.
We got your complaint for today. That is a cease and desist letter for any and all future complaints here at the Titusville Police Department. Cease and desist? Yep, yes. So you can read it at your leisure. You're more than welcome to sit in here. You can sit in your car. Okay?
So I can't make complaints anymore?
But we're done. Cease and desist, okay?
You understand that's a United States Code Title 18, civil rights violation, right? Sure about that? Well, you can't stop somebody from making a complaint. Say it, whatever you want. You already tried to trespass me.
Okay.
Can you tell me at which point my body is under detainment?
You can read it on your own, okay? Sure. All right, very good.
Stop me when the body is under detainment, please.
To your left, to your left, to your left.
Everybody here participating in the 3-day ride has to raise 1,000.
So right there, you start slowing down. Keep going. There you stop again. There's the 3rd time that you didn't follow his command when he told you to move.
Was I being shoved at? You can stop the video now.
Do what?
Was I being shoved from behind at the time?
He was giving you positive contact to keep you moving to stop from disturbing the event.
Did I turn my phone around to try and document that contact?
So I watched you have the cell phone from the beginning when you were walking outside the door, and instead of doing what he was telling you to do, you didn't listen.
Was my body under detainment at that point?
You keep asking me if your body was under detainment, and I would say it wasn't. He was giving you lawful directions to leave, and you weren't following them.
Is it a lawful order if your body isn't under detainment?
I can't answer that.
I don't know
Is it
why.
lawful? I don't
you're
understand your
asking
question.
that,
Is
Mr.
it
Bass.
lawful to tell people what to do and where to go with their body if their body is not under detainment, not under arrest anywhere?
No, that's not true.
It's a question. Is it legal?
Is it legal to give you lawful direction?
He can't answer that question.
So, all right. So I stopped, you claim that I stopped 3 times right there at the end?
Yeah,
Is
as
that
we
what you-
watched it together.
Okay, so you think at the end there is when I stopped 3 times?
That's correct. I counted them out to you.
Right. And that's why you say that I was being pushed from behind.
He was giving you positive contact to move you along.
Positive contact. Was I also being held?
I can't tell you. How many different ways can I tell you the same thing?
Was I also being held by my sleeve or arm?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Any redirect by the city?
Magistrate, could I ask one question on redirect?
Yes.
Could I have the video back up? If you could advance it to the next slide. Okay, Corporal, do you recognize this camera angle?
Right. So the people standing to the right side are officers and staff I was talking about. His car would be parked directly behind that trailer. At the front of the trailer behind it.
Could you show this video?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll let you, after he's done, I'll let you do one more.
Could you, and Corporal, could you explain what is being shown here?
This is no.
Could you back it up and we could?
Can we start the video at the beginning?
This has not been shown previously?
Correct.
And is that the multiple times you saw he was requested to stop and kept moving and then he stopped and then kept moving, then stopped and kept moving?
Yes.
Thank you.
The city wished to put this into evidence.
This part of
It's part of it, it just wasn't played previously. Okay,
because there's 2 made thirds and we didn't realize the second made third.
okay,
It's already in evidence.
okay.
The last 2 slides of the PowerPoint were not shown. This is the second to last slide, and then the last PowerPoint presentation slide is the copy of Thomas Bass' written appeal request.
No further questions of the corporal.
Okay, Mr. Bass, you wanted a couple of questions?
So if you can put the video up where I'm walking out the front door to my car. We'll watch this video first, but I was talking about the other one, so we'll go through this one first since you have it up now. You can see I'm walking, or I need to ask questions. Do you believe that I have the right to ask why I am being assaulted?
Again, it's outside the scope of direct and cause for legal conclusion and really has nothing to do with the trespass issue.
Do you concede that my car is right on the other side of that trailer
Yes.
and that I was walking towards my car?
Yes.
And do you believe that possibly with a hurt, injured knee that it might have to avoid that vehicle in front of me?
So, Mr. Bass, again, I watched you back your car up into a parking spot, and you walked fine into the lobby, and you also walked fine outside. You didn't have a limp or anything like that.
No,
As far as your injury goes, I don't know what your injury you have.
Yeah. My injury was fine at the time. Well, besides it being a torn ACL. Can we go back to me exiting the building and walking through the crowd? Can we skip forward a little bit to where I'm walking out the front door?
On your own, okay? To your left, to your left, to your left.
Do you agree that this is an opening for me to walk through and not crowded?
I do, but I also agree that you were instructed to walk to the left 3 different times. And I also would agree that you were doing this intentional to cause a disturbance.
What did I do?
Can't hear you.
You can stop the video now. You stated that I did this to start a disturbance?
Yes.
What did I do exactly?
You stopped after you were instructed to walk left and go read the paperwork that Major Wright had provided you in the car inside the police department lobby.
Did I stop after being shoved 3 times from behind?
No, you stopped and were shoved or pushed 3 times after you stopped.
Can we play the video from the time that someone come up behind me and was pushing me, please? From the outside, the other video? The other video, please?
He wants the other video.
The next slide. Was the officer also talking to me at the time?
He was telling you that you weren't invited to keep walking.
Should I have turned to listen to him at all?
Mr. Bass, what you should have done is you should have walked to the left to your vehicle and read the paperwork in your car and gone home.
Can we roll the video back just a little bit? You can see me, am I being shoved right here? From behind?
Well, at that point, you're actually being taken down and placed in handcuffs.
But before that, I was being shoved while walking to my car, correct?
Major Wright
Video
was
speaks for itself.
Was I being shoved while walking to my car?
Mr. Bass, Major Wright applied positive contact to your back to have you continue to walk. It wasn't a push. He wasn't being malicious. He was trying to get you out of there to stop disturbing the event.
Is it policy to push someone who has broken no laws?
I don't know if there's a policy.
I
Again.
don't think these questions are relevant.
No problem.
That's just, I
Yeah, I'll rest.
don't think it's part of the trespass appeal.
No problem. Thank you.
Corporal, you may be excused. Anything else from the city? May I have the video on and put to where Major Wright is getting the letter, the cease and desist letter in the lobby? Yes.
We got your complaint for today. That is a cease and desist letter for any and all future complaints that here at the Titusville Police Department.
Cease and desist?
Yep, yes. So you can read it at your leisure. You're more than welcome to sit in here. You can sit in your car. Okay?
So I can't make complaints anymore?
No, we're done. Cease and desist, okay?
You understand that's a United States Code Title 18, civil rights violation, right? Sure about that? Yeah. Well. You can't stop somebody from making complaints. You can say it, and you can say whatever you want. You already tried to trespass me for making complaints.
Okay.
You found out that.
So we're done here. Cease and desist. You can read it on your own, okay? Sure. All right, very good. To your left, to your left, to your left.
Okay, you can stop it. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bass, the city has finished presenting its evidence and testimony. Did the city put the cease and desist letter into evidence? Is that part of the packet of information?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
It was testified to. If the officer has it, we certainly can.
okay. So it's your opportunity to tell me whatever, if you have witnesses that you want to present, if you have documents or any other evidence you want to present, or if you want to come up to the podium and give your testimony, you can do all of those things.
So since the very beginning, I just felt that my civil rights were violated by having financial penalties instilled on me for having a perceived attitude for simply asking to see the radar gun or proof that I was speeding. I was actually doing safe driving by trying to speed up as I switched lanes as to not hit somebody in my blind spot. I took it to court. It was kind of surprised on me in court that my First Amendment right would be violated and my fine would be upped. I didn't know about that before court at all, so I was a little upset about that in court, and I'm sure that showed. I had no ability to build a defense before court for that, so I just pled out. I figured that it was retaliation. I also have video of me sitting down with Little, discussing it, and him also agreeing with me on the issue at a later point, and also agreeing that my complaints didn't reflect my actual complaint of retaliation. Before I spoke with Little, he literally yelled at me in the lobby before he even knew I was there. I also have video of that from there.
Why was he yelling at you?
He didn't even, I had showed up to discuss the findings because I felt that they were very biased. They were saying that I admitted to drunk driving when I never said anything about drunk driving. I said that as a youth, I would drink and drive sometimes, but I never said anything about drunk driving. There's one's legal, one's not. I've never admitted
I
to.
don't know of any legal,
You're allowed to have
driving
a
while
certain
you're drunk.
limit
okay,
in your blood while you're driving.
okay,
I think it's 1 or 2 beers.
okay.
So when I first sat down with them about the issues, I believe it was them that got off the subject and started talking about DUIs. I just kind of talked with them about it because these things interest me as a legal studies major. So at every point, even when I tried to make an anonymous complaint, they wouldn't accept it. And I just felt that that was unprofessional. Every time I tried to speak with their superior, I was hung up on, and I reported that. So every time I experienced unprofessionalism, I reported it because I wanted it to be addressed. And every time I was met with retaliation, people yelling at me, belittling me, trying to use slight things that I said that against me. And I just felt like my issues were never addressed at all and just ignored. I felt like it was a smear campaign launched against me instead of just investigating my claim. I came here to the city hall to make a complaint after my first illegal trespass, which was given to me based on, they said I made too many complaints and they were going to trespass me because I made too many complaints. Apparently that was rescinded. Shortly after, I emailed the mayor a video. So I guess that they had admitted that, that was not frivolous because they themselves rescinded the trespass. So they say that all my complaints are frivolous, but they had rescinded the trespass themselves at some point, and that was one of my complaints.
But this is a different trespass warning, correct?
Yes, the first one, they rescinded because I guess they found that it didn't have merit.
And you received the one that we're here on today, the 5/3/2023. You received this trespass warning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And what is it about this trespass warning, I don't mean to interfere with the city's, whatever you want to cross-examine him on, I'm just trying to get to the point. What is it about this trespass warning that you feel is wrong under the law?
Well, you have to ask somebody to leave according to the statute, and they have to refuse to leave for a trespass to be legal.
Well, this is you being asked to leave. This is the warning. So you're appealing from the warning, right?
That's not exactly how the law is written. The law says you have to ask somebody, they have to refuse, and then you can give them a trespass warning. And then if they return, then you can arrest them for trespass.
Okay, do you know what law that is? that you're
Yes, would you
referring
like me to read it to
to?
you?
Well, is that the statute that the city put into evidence?
Oh, I'm guessing that they use the state trespass. Or is it, I don't, do they use the city one, or? What's the definition
well,
of trespass under?
They put in a statute. Oh, this is disturbing schools and religious and other assemblies. This, okay, so that's not the state trespass.
I would ask
law.
if you can disturb a public event by simply speaking to people, individuals in public, personally. I would also argue that I wasn't nearly as loud as the gentleman said I was, and that I was simply trying to walk to my car. I understood as a legal studies major that my body wasn't under detainment and I couldn't be told what to do with it or where to go. I took the shortest route to my vehicle. I seen a vehicle was in front of me and I had to navigate it. I have to turn on my left torn ACL knee, which had just healed enough for me to walk properly at that point. So when I was shoved from behind, I went to turn my phone around, which may have slowed me down from walking, trying to aim my phone behind me to catch myself being physically assaulted from 3 pushes from behind. As I was trying to catch my balance, because I have a bad knee, I can't really be shoved on my knee or shoved forward and still walk on a bad knee. So I was just trying to catch my balance and slow down so that I wouldn't injure my knee or be shoved while I'm walking. I would say that I didn't stop 3 times on my way out and that I did walk the shortest way to my vehicle possible. I don't really trust these officers from my interactions with them, being yelled at, being scheduled meetings with, and they never show up. One officer even told me that trespass law for parks can be used now because of a future amendment that's coming. And that's when I expressed concern about them using future law, as I call it, to hold people accountable.
I'm not going to consider what might be enacted in the future.
Yes, that's the way I felt as a legal studies major, that I was kind of confused that an officer would be that blind to the law that he would try and apply future laws to the present.
That's not what I meant, but.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my vehicle was also illegally searched. Well, they inventoried my vehicle, so that was legal.
That's not part of the
Trespass.
trespass appeal.
Okay. My watch was destroyed when I was taken to the ground, and my knee still shows injuries. I was also jailed for 11 hours, approximately. First time ever in jail. I have no criminal record at all. I don't believe that the officers have any idea what I went through at college or any of my real statements that were made. I believe those statements were taken completely out of context, and that any punishment that I received at UCF was rescinded and apologized. I was apologized to by the vice president of the university during 5 meetings with him. I
What
believe
was it that happened at UCF that resulted in the cease and desist or the trespass?
I tried to have a meeting, and they refused to have the meeting and trespassed me when I showed up, just for being there. There was no,
But as I read in the document that was admitted into evidence, you said something to the effect, this is why places
that wasn't
like
why I
that
was trespassed.
get shot up.
I never said that at all. It was actually something the lady misconstrued, or I spoke about a recent shooting at the
You
school.
can understand how.
Oh, yes,
at
I
a
do.
school,
I take it very seriously.
somebody saying that,
I was very offended that they actually said that I said that. And they have written that, that's alleged saying, and that I don't agree with the fact that they said that. And they did lift any trespasses, and they have apologized to me as a student.
okay.
Um,
Now, your particular,
So I have a concern about, trying to go to the police department and report, anonymous. I think I've had like 7 or 8 civil rights violations, just trying to report problems to this police department.
so, under the trespass warning, as I read it, it's limited to 1 year. It is, the name of the facility is the Titusville Police Department, presumably the lobby, because you wouldn't normally be in the back anyway. What is preventing you from continuing to make your complaints?
Being attacked mainly.
No, I mean, by this trespass warning itself, how does that prevent you from continuing to make whatever complaints you want to make to the police?
Just in person, it would keep me from going there and being able to do it in writing in person. But they did see on video, you can see them say that I can't make any more complaints. And that is also a civil rights violation, to tell someone they can't make complaints to the police department.
Well, the trespass warning just says that you can't come
Enter,
there for
Yes,
a
ma'am.
year.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way I'm reading it.
Yes,
Am I-
ma'am.
If the city wishes to correct me.
I believe that every citizen should have the right to go to their police department peacefully and file paperwork without any qualms. I believe that I should be able to go to any public event. If you hold an event right in front of your front doors, I believe that it's reasonable for the public to go through it, be involved with it. I believe it's unreasonable to tell me that you can tell me where my body should go in which direction without having my body under illegal detainment. I believe that I was asked to stay, and that being asked to stay.
When
that-
were you asked to stay?
I was asked to stay right before I was trespassed. So I was asked to stay and wait.
Well,
to
you were
receive-
issued a trespass warning. You weren't arrested for trespass.
Right.
Is that was it your understanding that you were simply given a warning, a trespass warning?
Correct. But to be trespassed, even on a warning, you have to be asked to leave, not invited to stay. So that's my concern, that any citizen coming and making more than 1 or 2 complaints, even if they experience this unprofessional that I did, people yelling at you, things like that. I didn't start recording during our first couple meetings until I was literally yelled at by Sergeant Little in the lobby. I have it on video from his body cam, him yelling at me. He doesn't even know I'm there. And then he
If
sent me.
there's a piece of evidence you want me to consider, you can show the city and I'll consider it.
Mhm.
It is 4:10. I'm going to ask for about a 5-minute break. We are so far into the agenda, or we haven't gotten
Yeah,
very far into the
I
agenda.
can't believe how big of an event this has become for a trespass like this. I feel like I'm being steamrolled by the police department.
All right,
and
I'm
it's
gonna,
just a
I'm
good
gonna
10 minutes.
ask for a 5-minute break. I need to talk with Code Manager Tolleson about the agenda.
No problem.
Okay, let's go ahead and adjourn for 5.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bass, we took a short recess while you were still presenting your testimony. If you want to come on back up and finish.
Yeah, I just want to express that my demeanor in this court has been the same demeanor that I've expressed at this event and with the professionalism of every officer that I tried to make a complaint against or speak with. I'm not a very loud person. I would never scream out at an event. I would never act crazy or unruly. I just am a legal studies major, and I want my police department to follow the rule of the law. I want them to follow their own. Can I grab a piece of paper real quick?
Yeah.
Magistrate,
Yes.
could I ask one question? I know we still have some code people here, and I think they were advised that it might get tabled, and I didn't know if we need to announce.
Oh, I'll go ahead and put that in the record. I'll put that in the record. Due to the length of this initial hearing, I consulted with the code enforcement manager, Tolleson, and assistant city attorney, and decided that we should table all of the code enforcement cases that are on the agenda today and will be brought back up on the July agenda. So anyone who is still here for a code enforcement case, you may leave.
I just didn't want them to have to wait.
I want to say sorry to you individuals.
Nope, don't be sorry. We want to make sure that everybody gets their due process and don't want to limit their cases either, so.
Yes. I also want to make it clear that every time I spoke with an officer that was professional, I thanked them for their professionalism. I made sure to thank them for their professionalism. There's at least 10 officers who I had very professional experiences with, and I thank them for that.
Okay, okay, anything else that you would like to present?
Yeah, I would like to go over the citizen complaint procedure. Their own procedures state that anonymous complaints may be taken and investigated. That didn't happen. I was hung up on. And that you're supposed to ask for a superior or go up the chain of command. And when I asked for that, I was hung up on. Those are both civil rights violations, according to the United States Code Title 18. So at that point, obviously, I would like to make a complaint. Those complaints were found frivolous, even though they are civil rights violations. I tried to sit down with them at that point. They wanted to talk about everything besides anything holding them accountable at that point. I was yelled at in the lobby. I have a video if you'd like to see that. I can show that. It also says here that good relationships with a citizen as community policing. I don't feel that we had any good relationship at any point. I mean, when I pulled up to talk to that officer after the stop, I had been stopped. I went to the courthouse and applied for court for the ticket. I then seen he had somebody stopped on the way back home. I waited for that stop to end. The car left, and then I pulled up and spoke to the officer about a certification for his gun, for his radar gun. He gave me attitude again at that point. It says here that Titusville Police Department is committed to unbiased policing in all its encounters. I don't feel like my treatment has been unbiased at all. I felt like I've been steamrolled, and I think the extent of this, all that PowerPoint and all this stuff is kind of evidence of that, me being attacked. The charges for resisting arrest without violence were dropped when the DA found out I had a video of it. I was just peacefully trying to walk to my car, as I did the very first time that I was trespassed. I walked to my car peacefully, and I emailed the mayor about it, and it was lifted. I also wasn't notified of it being lifted. Citizens must, it also says in their citizen complaint procedure, citizens must feel free to question police conduct which they feel is improper. The police department policy provides guidelines for officers to prevent bias policing. It also says to maintain public confidence and trust through provisions and services in a fair and equitable fashion. I don't feel that I've been treated fair. I've been yelled at. I've been attacked. I've been told where my body should go when it's not under detainment. I've had my civil rights violated about 7 times now. I believe that most other citizens may have given up by now, but I felt the need to keep writing complaints because it needed to be addressed. I really feel that this police department needs citizen oversight. I don't believe that they're taking citizens' complaints seriously. I believe that they create arguments with the citizen who files a complaint so that they can then say that you were arguing with them, and then they can have a right to hang up on you or whatever that they want to do in that situation. I believe it's very clear that I was walking within clear line of sight through an open path to my vehicle, that I only stopped once I started being shoved because I can't walk when I'm being shoved because of my knee and torn ACL. I couldn't believe that I was being attacked at that point. I'll probably need to deal with that in some therapy or something later on. I still need to get a MRI on my knee to see if there's any damage from that event. And I have a doctor's appointment to do that. The DA dropped, as I said, the case for the resisting without violence against the officer because there was no reasonable articulable suspicion of any crime before me being arrested or attacked. I didn't say anything to disturb the event. I didn't say anything out loud in public. I said things to individuals, and that's private, protected by the First Amendment, private speech. I believe if you can't speak out in public, then you might as well be Russia or China or an authoritarian government. And I believe some of their statements to be untrue. And I believe that they also said in their statement that I disturbed a prayer. I was never even outside during a prayer. I think that shows how they're trying to create a case in feelings and emotions, that things that just aren't true. They also said I walked through a crowd. You can see on the video, and the officer admitted that I have an open path, and it was towards my car, and I wasn't trying to walk through a crowd. I was actually scared to go the direction they wanted me to go out of fear because of all the retaliation that I had already experienced. I just think there's a culture of retaliation at the police force. I believe that they don't want to hold their own accountable because they have to work with them every day, and they don't want those attitudes or emotions in their workplace, and that they rather just put it all off on me, make me look like the bad guy, have this big production. They say that I'm wasting their time or city time, but look at all the
Well, sir, you're the
Media.
one who asked for the appeal, so we have
Yes.
to do this hearing.
Oh, I understand. But for all these officers to show up and try and smear me personally,
They're not trying to smear you. They're giving their testimony,
testimony.
and now you have your chance to give me your testimony.
Right.
That's how the judicial system works. That's
Oh,
how
I
the
understand.
quasi-judicial
right.
system is
But-
working here.
Do they do this for everybody that has a complaint and gets trespassed, or?
It's the first one.
Wow. Yeah, I believe that, you should never get attacked or trespassed just for filing paperwork. If they want to find my complaint's frivolous, they have the right to do that. But to attack me or to trespass me is a step beyond. They should be treated just like I made them online or anything. I shouldn't have my rights violated just for filing paperwork. I believe that this is a culture of retaliation that needs to be addressed. Obviously, if they're hanging up on people trying to make complaints. What was said to me when I tried to make my anonymous complaint was that the officer said that he would entertain this a little bit longer. And I found that very unprofessional. I asked for a superior, and I was hung up on. And that's some of how this all started. I would also have the videos. If you would like to see them, I could work with the people in the back to get them up of me being yelled at in the lobby and kicked out.
Well, So what would that evidence have to do with the,
Culture of
the
retaliation.
the trespass warning issued to you?
Culture of retaliation, just a systematic retaliation, unprofessionalism, the validity of my complaints.
The validity of your complaints is not really the issue for the trespass warning, is it?
No, I don't think it is, no.
And the trespass, the issuance of the trespass warning has to follow certain law. And you have filed an appeal under the city code that allows you to appeal the issuance of a trespass warning. So what is the basis for the appeal of the issuance of the trespass warning?
It's unlawfulness. Saying things in public between two individuals as private conversations. There was no disturbance at any point. I think the biggest disturbance was me being unlawfully arrested in the middle of the event, having like 5 guys jump on me while trying to walk to my car. They keep trying to say that, I should have went left, and obviously my body wasn't under detention. I had no legal authority to tell me where to go at that point.
So what is it under general trespass law or the city code that you feel made this trespass warning illegal?
One of my concerns is that I wasn't given any of the information for the trespass that I'm being charged with, or I wasn't able to have any evidentiary understanding of what was going to go on here, or what I was being charged with.
Well, I don't think you were
As far as the code,
charged with anything.
the code being used, the county code being used for the trespass and stuff like that, I was not made aware of any of that.
But you filed the appeal under the
Yes.
code, right?
I wasn't aware of any code at the time. It's
Okay,
until today.
but that doesn't make the trespass warning
No.
illegal, that you were
No,
not
no,
aware.
that's a different question. I believe that the trespass should be illegal because it's a slippery slope when you allow police to just trespass you based on what hearsay of other people in public. That it's a slippery slope, and that you just can, when one person comes in there to make a couple complaints, you can just trespass them because you don't want to hear their complaint or you don't want to address them. And I believe that the civil rights violations are, very clear.
I am not going to make any kind of ruling on a civil rights violation. I know that you believe that your civil rights have been violated. That's really not the issue for me today. My focus is pretty narrow, and it's whether to grant an appeal, whether I think that your appeal is legitimate, whether the city has produced sufficient evidence to justify issuing
Yeah.
the trespass warning.
I have no reason to go to the police department anymore. I believe that they have a culture of retaliation, and that me going there is just going to put me in harm's way after being physically attacked and jailed for literally no crime at all. I believe that I will just make complaints online if possible, if needed, but I don't even believe that I should do that anymore because I don't think that they're going to be properly investigated. I believe that they need citizen oversight to review all complaints.
Okay,
And that's it.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your professionalism also.
Thank you, I appreciate that. At this point, we can do closing arguments. Would the city want to make a closing argument? And then, Mr. Bass, you're free to make a closing argument.
Very brief.
That's fine.
I'd like to-
I don't want to rush anyone. I'm not
Sure,
trying to
sure.
rush anyone, so,
I just wanted, may it please court, I'm sorry, may I proceed, Magistrate?
yes.
I'd like to clear up a couple of things. There were some references made to the trespass statute. I just want to clarify, this is not a trespass pursuant to Florida law. This is a trespass pursuant to city code.
Right.
And pursuant to our code, the officer at its option may enforce a trespass by means of Section 810.08 and 810.09 Florida statutes, we went under the city code. The actual trespass warning says that it is issued at the very top pursuant to ordinance number 8/2023. And it provides at the bottom, Section 13-122 trespass warning appeal process. And that's included in the request. So throughout the warning and the appeal, it references the ordinance and the city code. Another point, to the extent that the magistrate feels relevant, there was discussion about a previous trespass that was rescinded. The rescission had nothing to do with the merits of the trespass. It's the fact that we have a new process. And so we elected to rescind that and just follow our new process that we've created, which is being enacted at this point. I think it's telling that when he explained to the court that he was upset with the judge, so maybe he was sorry, but he voiced it and how he got angry. So you look at the fact that when he doesn't apparently get his way or feel something's wrong, he does have the propensity, as we've seen, to get angry. We've also seen that language used at the college, to the extent we have a legislator issuing a cease and desist based on the aggressiveness of his phone calls. I don't want to misquote, you have it. So given that history, and you heard him testify that he thinks that there's this smear campaign, they don't listen to him, he's really upset with the police. So at this point, on May 3rd, 2023, when again they entertained his 9th or 10th complaint and issued the cease and desist, which was to those complaint issues. It wasn't all issues in the future. We're done with this issue. And they advised him after he had interacted with this group, do not interact again, go to the left. His response was, I'm about to embarrass you, as he headed towards the crowd and to do nothing more than to disrupt, which is very clear, and you've heard all the testimony in that regard. And the fact that he considers himself radicalized. All this shows an intent that he's upset with the police and he's going to be disruptive. That was the issue. And this clearly has met the requirement of the code that he acted in a manner which violated or is reasonably suspected to violate a law, ordinance, or rule by disrupting this lawful event. And that's the statute I provided you, and that's why you were provided that statute, is because he was interrupting a lawful assembly. He was provided warnings. He decided not to listen. I think the evidence did show clearly and convincingly that he did refuse to restrict his behavior to legitimate public business. And he did intentionally disrupt this lawful assembly after several warnings not to. I also found it interesting, his statements just a few minutes ago to the magistrate when he said he went right, not left, because of fear of retaliation. Why would he fear retaliation for following the instructions of the officers? It's the exact opposite. Why would he not follow their instructions and tell them, I'm about to embarrass you? Wouldn't that draw more behavior from the officers to bring his behavior into conformance rather than just had listened and gone to the left? Again, we believe we've met our burden to show that he has violated our trespass policy and that it's for 1 year, it's not indefinite. And also there is provision whereby he can continue to make legitimate complaints to the police department.
Okay, Mr. Broom, I have a couple of questions about the language in the trespass ordinance and the predicate to issue the trespass warning. Under 13-121, those persons identified herein, law enforcement, are authorized on behalf of the city to warn persons of the prohibited activity and request such activity to cease. If the activity does not cease, they are authorized to issue a trespass warning. So based on the language of your ordinance, how do these facts fit into that sentence?
I believe the testimony was at the very beginning when he had interacted with the assembly and distracted the assembly, and you heard the testimony about disrupt police. He clearly was being disruptive of the assembly, which he was not supposed to be a part of. Then he came in and continued to engage. At that point, he was told, do not further disrupt. He was warned, do not disrupt this assembly again. That was the testimony from the commander and from the major, who said, go left, do not disrupt this assembly. Despite these warnings, he continued to go right. And they continued to say, go left, go left. He continued to disregard this instruction and said, I'm going to go embarrass you. So he had been told not to interrupt, and he blatantly, willfully said, disregarded that instruction, and I'm going to go embarrass you now. He didn't say, I'm going to embarrass you in the future, or I'm going to go embarrass you now. And that's, in my opinion, the evidence is presented that he was warned, stop that activity, do not engage again, do not disrupt this assembly, at which point he disregarded and said, I'm going to do it.
All right, so it was Officer Wright and Commander Denham advising him to go to the left as he's exiting, and that's the warning as the predicate for the issuance of the trespass.
Correct. The previous behavior was disrupting the event, and they saw that. And this was to ensure he doesn't disrupt it again. So the warning was, do not engage, go to the left. At which point he said, his response was, I'm about to embarrass you now. I'm paraphrasing it. I'm going to embarrass you now. And that's when they saw him heading towards the event, which shows willful intent to disrupt.
Okay, so the cease and desist letter has nothing to do with meeting the criteria of warning. Is that right? That just
No.
had to do with those complaints.
That's correct. Correct. That the business was concluded with the cease and desist. With regard to,
The legitimate business of him being at the police station had concluded when he was told, here's your cease and desist. We're not dealing with your complaints anymore.
correct. That was not part of a
Now he's no
trespass warning.
longer there for legitimate police business.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You can continue. Anything else?
Unless you have any questions, I'll rest.
I don't think I have anything further. Okay. You can, you can stay there if you prefer, or you can come up here and give me your closing statement.
Yeah, like I said, I also have video on my phone that I would like to make admissible that shows some things. So, you say that I was not supposed to be part of, but it was public, meaning the public has the right to be part of the event. So you can't say that I'm not supposed to be part of a public event without saying that you're being biased against me.
And what is your reasoning that that was a public event, that you had the right to be there?
I emailed the operator of the event, and they said that all their memorials are public events, and the public are welcome to all of them. They
You
keep
emailed that before you came there that day?
No, not before.
Oh, this is after?
After, yes.
Okay.
So they keep trying to characterize it as a private event to make me look like I was more disruptive, but that wasn't the case. As I walked to my car, I said or did nothing disruptive. To embarrass doesn't mean where, how, when, nothing of that nature. So for them to say that that means I'm going to embarrass their event is skeptical. Their skepticism. It's just their opinion. You can't attack somebody on an opinion you think someone's going to do something in the future what they haven't done. Especially arrest them, attack them, tow their car, take their phone for 3 weeks. I mean,
Not, that's
Yes.
past.
Yeah,
That's
I understand.
That's beyond the narrow issue.
Right.
that
I'm just
we're
trying to point
considering
out
today.
that I've already been punished enough. So the body detainment, it shows that I wasn't under detainment, my body wasn't under detainment. I was walking clearly to my car through a clear path, not necessarily through the event. I had no intention of saying or doing anything to disturb the event. Once I started being shoved, I had to stop because I can't walk when I'm being shoved, especially on this side. I have video that shows me being shoved. I have video showing that my arm is being pulled from behind, so I can't walk. So I'm being stopped. And he's actually holding this camera right here so that his camera doesn't show him shoving me. So he's holding it right under my arm and shoving me from behind. So that I guess I would turn around and it would look like I was coming towards him or he could react in some manner. I just feel that it's total retaliation. I think me walking my car shows my intent to leave and just walk to my car. I have no
And
reason.
what was your intention when Major Wright told you to go to the left?
I didn't know they were
And
talking to
when
me
you-
necessarily. They just said left. I heard the word left.
And you
That's-
said no, which I did hear
Did I
on the
say-
video.
Oh, okay.
And I did hear words to the effect of, I'm going to embarrass the police. Or,
Yeah, I meant because this was my second illegal trespass, that there was going to be, an embarrassment of the police department legally.
okay.
Obviously, someone stating that if they have the intent to do something, they have to actually do it. Before you can't just attack somebody and arrest them because people say they're going to do something special.
Again, that's after the critical point where I need to make my evaluation is, were you given a warning? Did you continue the activity?
There was no.
Resulting in the trespass.
Right. There was no warning. If they say telling me to go left is a warning, it's a direction of my body, and my body's not under detainment. So that can't be seen as a warning. You didn't say, don't walk that way. You just said left. I mean, that's not a warning. That's just a direction that's not lawful because my body's not under detainment. There was no cease and desist letter. There was no letter that says cease and desist. It was just them finally addressing some of my claims that they had been refusing to address, my complaints. It seemed like they weren't addressing my complaints so that I would come there so that they could, do this kind of stuff.
Anything else?
Yeah, like I said, I have the video on my phone that shows me being held back, not stopping, and being shoved, if you would like to see it.
All right, I'll look at it.
Thank you. Do you want to see it now?
Yeah, well, let's do this. I'm not going to make a ruling today anyway. What I would like is if you, because the city needs to see it as well, I would
Yes.
like it to be made, if you can email it to the city,
It might be too long to email. It's
or you can
email don't like
cut
that.
the portions that you feel is the most.
The easiest way is an airdrop. If somebody in the back, I could airdrop it to their phone or something like that. It might be easier.
All right, if you would like to get with Code Enforcement Manager Tolleson to get airdrop.
If you have an Apple phone, I can airdrop it to it.
Mine's Android, sorry.
Yeah.
if Mr. Bass would give me his phone number information, I'd get you a flash drive and we can make that happen.
Okay,
I don't have a computer to put it on a flash drive myself.
Well, if you give me your phone number, sir, I'll figure something out. and
Okay, okay.
Contact you.
so
A- after
you
the-
work with the city to get a copy of whatever you want me to consider
Okay.
into evidence. They'll send it to me. I'll take a look at that, and I'll take a look at all the other evidence
Yeah.
that's been submitted, and then I'll issue a written order. Is your address on your written appeal correct? 2276 Kentucky Avenue, Mims, Florida?
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
That's still correct, okay. All right, then let's do that. You can submit that, and I would also say any legal authority either side wants me to consider as well, you can send that to the city and they'll get that to me.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, just, I would say that telling a person which way to go when their body's not under detainment is not a warning. And I was never given a warning at any point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for your professionalism.
thank you. Okay, if the city's fine with that, I'll look at his video, I looked at your video, I'll look at his video. You'll get a copy of it as well. If you want to make any comments about the video in a response to me, that's fine. You are able to do that since we didn't play it here today. And I'll give either side the chance to submit any legal authority that you would like me to consider in addition to what I've already received.
Yes, ma'am. The only clarification I would request is he going to send the video to us at the same time he sends it to you?
No, it's not going to come directly to me. It's going to come to the city first, then it'll get,
Okay. And is there a timeline in which we expect to receive the video so it's not too much?
right. Can it get done this week? Within 3 days,
I was
let's say?
just curious when we should expect it.
Let's say within 3 days, you'll submit the video, and within 1 week, any other information, any other legal authority, any argument you want to make about the video, about his video, within 1 week, so Monday. All right, and then we will be adjourned. Thank you.